trained in this to go to the FISA court. FISA court is a secret court to subpoena phone records or wiretaps on an elected official. Okay, has to be secret because if they find out about it, then that blows the cover. So what they did was, and they're being caught in this. This is a known thing that we know that they lied to the FISA court.
Oh yeah,
because they were saying that Trump was being
and the head of the CIA did. It was Comey and the head of the CIA that lied about that.
Okay, so what's Trump done since he's gotten to be president? He has replaced top people at the FBI. In some cases, he had to let them show themselves whose side they were on.
It was like a. See, I always thought that there was something because, I'm skeptical about politicians anyway. Yeah. But I did think. But when I looked at it, I said, there's something up with this though. There has to be because there's no way in the world like this president. I've never seen one under siege so much in my life.
Exactly.
Where he's not even allowed to be the man. He does because he runs his mouth anyway. But when you look at it, all those other guys, they were allowed to be the man. They were just no, this is done, it's over, and everybody was like, okay, it's over.
Yeah.
He's the only guy that's there where they're no, it's not over.
It's not just hatred. It's fear.
Fear. Yep.
Okay, so you would think, okay, have they tried to assassinate him? Look this up. Just off the coast of Washington State, missile fired at Air Force One. There's a picture of it on the internet.
Right, but what about also all these weird Chinese nationals that sneak into Mar-a-Lago or whatever it's called, and they're over there, and then all of a sudden they find out they're spies.
Yeah.
Then you have these Chinese people that are coming onto these bases,
and
they're walking onto bases oh, I didn't know what I was doing. I was lost.
Oh, on top of that, and this I know for a fact. The first time I ever bought security cameras for our church, I bought a few cameras, we put them up, and then I had them linked to a computer because I had a program that would capture the cameras, record any action on it, and I'd have it on a computer. And I noticed that because we had a router that kept logs, and every now and then I'd look at the logs of the router, and I kept noticing that about every 30 seconds or so, something was going out to the same website. It was an IP address.
Yes.
So I typed in the IP address to find out who owned it, and it was a company in China owned by the Chinese government. So what I knew then was that the images from that camera was going to a place off-site in China somewhere. They were recording what was going on in our church. Then, a few years later, it's announced that the government has bought thousands of these cameras, all made in China, all with this software embedded in it, and they installed them in military installations so the Chinese government could spy on the Americans. So China is linked with this.
Right.
Okay, because, let me go back to Bill Clinton. I remember distinctly when Bill Clinton became president, he had the EPA issue an order that said only a certain type of clean burning coal can be used from now on in America because we're protecting the environment.
Yeah.
There was two places in the world where that type of coal could be found. One place was in the United States of America. The other place was in China. It just so happened that the place where that coal was in the United States was considered a wildlife area and could not be touched. So that forced us to buy coal from guess who?
China.
And Bill Clinton, Rush
Bill Clinton sold the rights to some missile defense or something system, didn't he?
He sold a base in San Francisco to the Chinese.
Yeah, and that's why the Chinese really wanted Hillary Clinton to win that election.
Absolutely. Listen, the Clintons have been in bed with the Chinese since before Bill Clinton was president because Rush Limbaugh used to tease it all the time about
Chi-Coms.
Yeah, Chi-Com. So China has been Harry Reid, Nevada. That whole thing about the cattle in Nevada and that rancher out there.
Oh yeah, those ranchers.
I'm not moving my cattle. That was Harry Reid who had promised the Chinese that they would get mineral rights to that land.
Yeah, and they fought him.
Yeah,
those cattle guys fought them,
Absolutely.
and they won.
So think about it. Some things don't make sense, and some things do.
Right.
Epstein did not hang himself, and his lawyer.
Oh, I know, that's right.
Epstein's lawyer, when Epstein got arrested, Epstein's lawyer released to the press a letter saying, "My client is a dead man."
I remember that. I watched that.
Okay, my client.
I don't think anybody believes that Epstein killed himself. I don't think there's anybody in the world that believes that. But he might not even be dead either. That's another thing.
That's what I'm saying.
That was
I knew he was
hit.
dead.
That was a hit, and all of a sudden, all the power went off to Lower Manhattan, where the jail was, mysteriously at the exact same time. And Q reported this. Q said, asked the question, why did the power go off at the exact same night that Epstein...
And the cameras fail.
Right.
And both cameras fail.
So here's the thing about it. I don't know. I can't say this. You say that at some point, and there's even been an examination into United States law on whether or not some of these things can be tried under military
Tribunals.
military tribunals instead of. Now here's okay. Let me get back to Trump. He's been replacing FBI people, CIA people, and over 200 federal judges. If a case ever went to a federal court, if it was an Obama judge, throw it out. But now it's one of Trump's judges. So he's been replacing federal judges.
Oh, yeah,
like
more than any
crazy.
president ever.
Exactly. So Q says that's for a reason. Okay? So, what has the theory is that at some point,
God, Cameron, get over there.
okay? So,
Fucking
he's been
idiot.
replacing federal judges.
Oh, yeah,
like
more than any
crazy.
president ever.
Exactly. So Q says that's for a reason. Okay? So what has the theory is that at some point there's going to be an operation and that they're going to make an arrest. And Q says that the first arrest that they make will absolutely shock the entire world. But he's not saying who, and he's not saying when it's going to take place. Okay? So that's Q in a nutshell. Believe it or not, I don't know.
How long has he been around, that Q? How long has he been
Q's
reporting
been
stuff?
dropping posts since 2017. Okay? Since after, in fact, Q released
Get the
something.
fuck out of here.
There's
cunt.
somebody that Trump hired in a certain position, national security advisor or something like that, and the day after, these Q posts start coming out, and Q said, connect the dots. So, it does seem to be somebody that at least knows a way around. And they're telling us
I'm gonna go
the
find the,
president's going to be safe. He's backed by these generals, and he's backed by the military loving. Military guys, he goes over there all the time.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They love him, and they got it. And they've said there's pictures that Q will release of Army guys, chiefs, guys at Gitmo that are holding up Q signs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're holding up Q signs, and they are standing at the entrance to Bay, Cuba. Okay. So there's Q guys down there. And he sends out pictures of Q people around the world. South Korea, India. There was a guy holding up a sign saying, I'm with Q or whatever. And so it's a lot of people. We're talking millions of people in America and around the world who have been watching the Q drops, the Q posts, to see what's going on. And they're the ones telling people, look, this virus going on. What if this is the basis for what Trump's going to do? What if getting everybody to stay home and having National Guard out on the streets? Don't be alarmed at that, is what Q is saying. Don't be alarmed at that, because we need this in place so we can do X needs to be in place so we can do Y and Z. In other words, so that's all I know about Q. Place so we can do Y and Z. In other words, so that's all I know about Q.
That's interesting.
Again, I can't tell you that that's true. I can't tell you it's not true. I don't know, but I've been reading.
Well, it's interesting, that's for sure.
It's going to make a good movie one of these days.
Well, I've never heard of it before. I mean, I've heard about Q, but I've never really explored it. I never looked into it because I was like, yeah, okay, well, whatever.
Look up pictures. Go to Google, type in missile fired Air Force One, Washington State.
Wow.
And because something happened, and
Look for a lot of cows.
it came out in the newspapers. You know what happened? You know, off the coast of, and there's a missile. It's a missile.
Wow.
Okay, allegedly fired at Air Force.
And you definitely have China that's really ticked too because they've lost a lot of money. You know, because they were manipulating our currency for such a long time and doing all the stuff they were doing. So that's kind of interesting. We'll switch gears here.
All right.
Let's see here. All right.
All right. I'll hold this up.
If you emailed it to him, he could put it on too.
He can Google it. Okay. This is 1971. One of our subs surfaced.
I'll be right back. You keep going.
Okay. One of our subs surfaced because it had an air contact, and they caught on camera this UFO coming up out of the water, and they took snapshots of it. Okay, you can Google that. What I did was Googled, what did I Google? U.S. submarine photo UFO, and it's on a bunch of places. There's an article, express.co.uk. Let's see here. Let's go to that website and I'll read the article. Could leaked UFO photos taken from U.S. submarine in 71 prove existence of aliens? Photographs revealing bizarre UFOs claimed to have been taken by U.S. Navy submarine crew have been hailed as the best ever evidence of extraterrestrial visits here. Because, you know, a lot of people are saying that they didn't see the UFO production. They saw it come up like out of a mountain or out of a lake or out of the ocean. So the article says sensitive researchers of UFOs released black and white images supposedly taken from the USS Trepang, Trepang, SSN 674, the sub number, in March 1971 are evidence of secret U.S. aircraft tests or alien life forms looking to carry out an early form of fracking. I don't know about that, but Alex Mistretta, paranormal investigator and author, investigated the images after they first appeared in French paranormal magazine Top Secret following an alleged leak. He claimed insiders told him the pictures were taken from the U.S. submarine on its journey between Iceland and Norway's Jan Mayen Island in the Atlantic Ocean, with the admiral on board at the time said to be Dean Reynolds, Admiral Dean Reynolds. Then it shows some of the pictures. So, you know, I went to a church, good people, love the Lord, love the Bible. And you know, I understand that. You know, I've been reading UFO books since I was in 6th grade. And somebody recently, they were at a used bookstore and they saw a book on UFOs. They bought it and sent it to me. And I got the book and opened it up. I was looking at the pictures and I'm going, "This is the book I had when I was a kid. It's in one of the school libraries. I recognized the pictures in it." So I've been reading books on UFOs, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, you know, Yetis, Sasquatch, any, you know, haunted houses, any kind of mystery that there was. That's always been a fascination of mine. And so when in 1997, when God laid it on my heart to study the Bible, looking at Bible prophecy. One of the first thoughts I had in my mind was, hey, I'll do something on UFOs. Well, I didn't immediately do anything on UFOs. Didn't talk about it. I put out a video several years ago called UFOs, Chariots of the Beast. And it was just one time, it was like an hour, 25-minute long video. And I basically looked at Ezekiel 1, and I said that in Ezekiel 1 is a companion to Revelation 4. It's like two eyes looking at the same thing, but from different directions.
That's interesting.
Ezekiel says that one of the faces looked like an ox, but Revelation says it's a calf. Okay? I don't see a discrepancy.
Calf is younger,
Yeah, it is.
so it could be a different time era.
But anyway, it's two ways. It's the Old and New Testament looking at the same thing. And I noted that Ezekiel called them living creatures. Revelation 4 called them creatures. So what I did was I connected them together. And this actually didn't come to me until I'm recording it. It's one of those things that God said, Mike, connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was talking, I actually had to stop and I edited it out because I'm going. And then I started talking again and I said, did you catch that? Where it says the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. So these wheels are round, like saucers, like discs. And then I said, Revelation 4 doesn't call them living creatures, it calls them beasts. So I said, let's put those two together. The spirit of the beast is in the wheels. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
So that's the connection. So that's why I titled it Chariots of the Beast. And I talked about Von Daniken's book, Chariot of the Gods. He was partially right. Because what Von Daniken did was he's the whole guy who started the whole ancient aliens thing. Because he writes.
He's the astronaut theory, or is that different? It's
the ancient astronaut theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was Von Daniken. Von Daniken wrote his book back in the late '60s, and it took him years to find somebody to publish it.
Nobody wanted to touch it.
Nobody wanted to touch it because they thought he was nuts. But what he did was he looked at all these old paintings, all these old carvings, all these old statues, and he said, looks like they're in a spacesuit, or it looks like they're in a spaceship. And I remember reading Chariot of the Gods when I was in high school, reading all these Von Daniken, Ezekiel 1 was saying it's not God, even though you believe in God, it's not God, it's these extraterrestrials. And he said, this is their flying ship. So I went, I'm a young Christian man, and I'm going, he's wrong, But I never forgot about the idea. So I did this one video back years ago, didn't touch it until, again, last year. It just seemed like, because I knew that the Pentagon had released the what's called the three videos. The Tic Tac, the Go Fast, and the gimbal UFO. What they are, starting in 2004, and it goes through like 2014, we have the most sophisticated video surveillance cameras with high def, with forward-looking infrared, with everything you can think of on the front of our jets. I mean, these jets are $1 billion if they're anything. We have the best trained men and women in the world flying. Okay? So some of these scientists, egghead scientists, saying this is obviously misidentification or there's something wrong with the equipment.
right.
If there's something wrong with our equipment, our borders,
We're in a lot of trouble.
We're nuts. So that's just an argument for these guys to say we don't really take it seriously and you people are stupid. That's basically their scientific answer. But anyway, it was Tom DeLonge, Blink-182 rock star, who is a Freemason. He has his square compass on his guitar now.
Wow.
Okay, so he's an admitted Freemasonry. What is Freemasonry about? Freemasonry is about the joining of heaven and earth. Every symbol in Freemasonry. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's their handshake, the way they cross their legs when they pose for a picture, their aprons. Everything in Masonry is about joining heaven and earth together. Everything is. You read Manly Hall, you read Albert Pike, and Albert Pike says this is heaven and this is the earth, and this symbol here, this is the heavens and this is the earth, and they're joined together. So then that takes you to Daniel chapter 2. They, which is 4, principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, spiritual wickedness in high places, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. So last year, the people at Fargo, the Red Rivers of Prophecy Conference, wanted me to submit what I was talking
Comment
about.
on the video. You guys
And
say
I did.
something in the chat or comment
So
section.
I'm just going,
Or the chat.
okay, UFOs and cryptid creatures. So then I'm going, well, let's see, I'm supposed to talk about this. I better do the research. So I started doing the research. A guy sent me a thumb drive, had over 650 UFO books in it on PDF and ebook. So I've got that collection, collected a bunch of
Well, I kind of wonder
my
if
own, bought some from Amazon, downloaded anyway. So I've got all these books, and I'm doing. I like them in PDF form because you can search.
Yeah, it's easier.
You can search and look for keywords and so on.
Studying is a lot easier.
Yeah, instead of reading a whole 680-page book.
Yeah, you can skim it.
Yeah, I can skim through it and find what I want. But in looking at all of these, including Colonel Philip Corso's book, The Day After Roswell, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But
let me ask you a question real quick. What outside of the Word of God, obviously, what extra biblical source? Because I know how you work. I mean, I've been around you long enough to know that if you don't see it in the Bible, then you're not going to deal with it.
Don't touch it.
I know that, not just because you say it, but I know it because I've known you for a while.
It's
so
reputation.
it's what you hold to. So that's why when I hear you talk about something like this, I know you're being serious about it, and it's something that you've thought about a lot. And because I know there's things that you won't touch yourself, and you kind of back away from it if you're not 100% sure what you're moving forward with, because it makes you nervous, even to the point you don't want to lead people astray in that sense. So I believe that. So what extra biblical source do you think has been the most influential, where you were like, how in the world did they gather that much information? Or in the sense of, wow, I picked up a lot on this that I never considered. I see it in the scriptures, but this guy, he's not saved. How did he figure this out? It had to be the devil that showed him. Was there some source, one of those books?
There's a few of them. I couldn't say it's just one. Those that have listened to me over the years know that I reference Manly Hall's book, Secret Teachings of All Ages. And I have some other books by Manly Hall, but Secret Teachings of All Ages is like an encyclopedia of the occult. And by the occult, I don't necessarily mean Satan worship. Like, I don't read books by Aleister Crowley and Eliphas Levi. I just don't. Those were bad guys. Those were evil guys. But Manly Hall was a guy, and he's got a huge library, which is still open, I think, to the public. But he had an endowment. He had some rich person give him tons of money and says, "Go research everything you find out and tell me what it is, and I'll pay you." So he amassed this huge library, and he read all these books, and he gave all these speeches. But when he wrote Secret Teachings, he was sick. He get a PDF of it. But what he did was he digested all that he read. It's like taking all these books here, reading every one of them, and then writing down what's in them in a short, the Cliff Note version. So that's what he did.
He's like an encyclopedia on that.
Exactly.
He amassed all of it together into a encyclopedia.
He tells you, in essence, what the symbols, what the ancient religions were all about. He said at the beginning, all of these religions basically were the same. They had different names for their gods, different names for their goddess, and in some cases different rituals. But the fact that they all had rituals that were similar, because if you take it, boil it down, soup, then all the flavors melt together, and you get a picture. And basically, there's one great big gigantic secret. So I use Secret Teachings of All Ages. I've read Morals and Dogma once. I read it through once. Every now and then I'll reference it.
Did he reference anything in that concerning aliens or anything like that?
They didn't use the word, none of them, neither Mike nor Paul, because they were pre-47. 1947 is the year. Okay, after that, boom, aliens. Okay, but yeah, Crowley died in 47. But he met Lamb just before that. Okay, and then Crowley dies, so he's got two disciples. Jack Parsons.
Yep, that's him. The propulsion missile guy.
Jet Propulsion Laboratory. They got the best rocket scientist other than Von Braun.
He was friends with Disney.
Yeah. And then L. Ron Hubbard.
That's it. Yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons got together, and they wanted Lamb, but they also wanted a goddess to come out called Babylon. Yeah. Okay. And they got her. They got in touch with her. So anyway, which is like what Stephen Cruz did. Anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. Okay. So you asked, I got to answer the question.
Yep.
Shut up over there. Anyway. All right. So anyway, Secret Teachings of All Ages. You go to any bookstore, probably find a copy of it. And then Philip Corso, because he is a colonel in the United States military, and these guys, for years, never talked about what they did when it came.
And they're not flippant people.
No.
Military people like that are upper brass like that,
Yeah.
they're not carried away with
It's not
stupidity.
like me and my wife come out the trailer the other day and we saw a light up in the sky. And it came down and there's this little green man coming out of it.
Hey, have you met my neighbor?
Yeah, it's not. These guys are professionals. These guys are trained. These guys are hardened military guys who don't run their mouth. Some of these guys are
Tight-lipped.
They're tight-lipped. But Corso coming out in the open while he's still alive, saying, "I wasn't at Roswell, but I was there's an air base in Kansas. Forgot what it was. I saw the body." And then he says, "My boss, General Trudeau, named him at the Pentagon, gave me a file cabinet, and he said, files in there, there's pieces in there of wreckage that we recovered from Corona Roswell project. You take them, you go to these companies that are contractors like General Electric, like Lockheed Martin, like some of these companies that had security clearance contracts with the government. Your scientists have to figure out what to do, break it down, tell them they can have patents to it, give it to the people, but we get it first because we're the military. We need to use this because we're fighting the Russians and we want better stuff than them."
Right.
So Corso writes the book Day After Roswell, and then there's another book that he wrote, and he tells this. You can find this on YouTube. Look at Colonel Corso. You can look at some interviews that he did on camera before he died. And Corso said that he was at one time stationed at Roswell, and he was told that there were some caves that were off the base, but there's some weird stuff going on. So he goes out, takes a jeep, goes out to investigate. And he said, and this is in that book, he said wreckage. He was showing films of the autopsy. He was showing films of various craft that the military has taken in, and he's telling all this. Okay, some of it he says I can't talk about such as top security. Even now, I can't talk about, but some things I will talk about. But anyway, Corso goes out there and he meets this gray alien kid. The alien is telling what they suspected, that at Roswell Air Base was the only 1947 the only place in the world where atomic bombs were stored, because that's where they flew out of. Was Roswell. They were testing out of Roswell, Trinity Site, and then Roswell Air Base had them. And the theory was that because they had a very sophisticated and very powerful radar network set up around Roswell Air Base, that was somehow interfering with the aliens' technology on their ships and causing them to crash. So, Corso gets communicated by the aliens. The aliens telling him, turn your radar off for 15 minutes and we'll leave. Because they were stuck there. And Corso said, what's in it for me? In other words, what are you going to give me? I've got you stuck here. I want something out of it. And Corso said the alien said to him, a new world if you'll have it.
Wow.
Yeah. So Corso wrote a book. It's in manuscript form. You can find it on the internet, called The Dawning of a New Age by Philip Corso.
So, okay. They're saying that Corso is saying that those gray aliens operate those saucers.
Yeah.
That's what he believed, that those.
And including Corso said it, Bob Lazar said it. Bob Lazar was a young guy who's all of a sudden his entire life's history disappeared from off the planet because he worked at S4. And understand, we all say Area 51 like a joke. But it's because of Bob Lazar. We're talking 1987, 88 when he did this. He's working at Area 51, he's away from there, off of Blue Lake by Bamboos Lake. Yes. Nobody knew about S4 in 1987, 1988, whenever he did this. Nobody. That was hush, super top secret. So he comes out, he gets in touch with George Knapp, Las Vegas reporter. They do a live interview. He's in a TV news crew van. They've got the sun breaking behind him, so his face is black. You can't see his face. And he calls himself Dennis. It turns out Dennis was his supervisor's name. So he calls himself Dennis, and he says he works at a place called Area 51 S4, where he works on captured alien craft. And of course, the news people are going, really? How's it going? And he says, as far as what? And she's nervous. She's like, I'm going to ask this guy. Well, how's it going with back engineering? And he said, well, it's going kind of slow because there's a lot of things about it we haven't figured out. But since then, there is a documentary.
Explain back engineering quickly.
Okay, reverse engineering. Let's say a company comes out with a brand new computer or a brand new toaster. Okay, and it's the best toaster ever made, and they patented the parts of the toaster.
Okay.
So GE comes out with a toaster. Well, Samsung wants to make that same toaster. So Samsung goes to buys a toaster, makes it with their lab, pulls the screws off to see what's in it, to see how it's made. Find out what that chip is in there and what it does. Okay?
Gotcha.
Or when Microsoft, back when they first started, when they released their MS-DOS, okay, they had that copyrighted. They had it patented. That's their operating system. Companies around the world wanted that operating system. They just didn't want to pay for it. They ended up paying Bill Gates' license. That's how they got rich. So what they did was they took the code, looked at it, figured out a different way of doing that code,
Right.
because there was guys that were looking at it going, if our code shows up in your software, we're going to sue the daylight out of you. So that's what they do. Take it, they don't know how it works, they take it apart, try to figure out how it works.
So they've got these saucers.
9 of them.
9 of these. There's 9 of them the U.S. government has
Get the
possession
fuck
at
over
least that
there.
we know of, and they all crashed.
Some of them, no, not, and he was debriefed. They sat him down in a room, and they didn't tell him everything. But he sat him down with a stack of papers like this tall, and they said, spend today and tomorrow reading these. But you're not taking them with you. No
Can't leave
cameras,
them.
no cameras, nothing. Eyes only. Read through these. And what he said was, it's given him the U.S. government's knowledge of extraterrestrials and UFOs that goes back thousands of years. And then, let me add this, and I have it. I have the document. The Air Force, when you took training with the Air Force to be an officer, you had to take an astronomy course. The astronomy course textbook had a chapter in it called UFOs.
Okay.
And in officer training, they had a whole chapter on the United States involvement with UFOs that goes back thousands of years. That if you think you see one, here's how to identify it. And
So they train the Air Force on this. The officers.
they train the Air Force officers and the
They
pilots
have to know this.
to know what to look for.
Protocol.
Okay, that was chapter 33. And I'm not kidding you. I'll show it to you tonight. Okay.
Hey, bet.
But anyway, once that was leaked, that was back in the 60s, early 70s. Once that was leaked, they pulled it.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not in there anymore. But you can find a copy online. So anyway, Lazar said that one of them, they actually had
One of the 9 ships.
one of the 9 ships they actually had working. And they would test it on Wednesday nights because they knew that the highway, this was before they bought all the extra land around Area 51 because
Desert.
people started getting on top of the mountain and looking down to see what they were doing. So they bought more property so there's no way you can see it. So anyway, they said that on Wednesday night, almost nobody goes on the highway, so they won't see it. So Wednesday nights at like 9:30 is when they test this thing. Lazar knew that. How did he know that? So he tells John Lear, who's a friend of his. John Lear is the son of the Lear jet guy.
Okay.
Okay, so he's a pilot himself. He's a CIA pilot. So he gets with Lear, takes John Lear and another guy out to outside of Area 51, and exactly 9:30 on Wednesday night, boom, they've got it on video. Okay, there's this light shining up in the sky doing stuff. No, it's not a plane. So once Lazar comes out, he gets shot at, but he came out openly to protect himself. And they were tapping his phone and he knew they were tapping his phone because one of the guys, one of the supervisors he worked for, came to him and said, "We hate to tell you,
Fucking idiots.
your wife's having an affair," because they were listening to the phone calls. He was gone for days, then come home like a weekend, stuff like that. And so she thought he couldn't tell her what he was doing. She thought he was running around. So she goes out and has an affair, and it just ruined it. They ask him, he was legit. Yeah, he's a guy. I don't care nothing about it. But what I care about is we have technology that could solve the energy crisis. It could solve the food shortage. It could literally create a new world here. We have the ability to go anywhere we want to the universe, and the military's keeping it secret. Yeah. So Bob Lazar there's a documentary that Jeremy Corbell did.
So are all
Lazar that came out, and he's telling the truth.
Are all 9 of those in one space? They think, or are they all?
They're in
over?
hangars that are they're meant to look
Operation Paperclip? Because I'd like to know. That seems
Okay, before.
What is Operation Paperclip?
Okay, I'll explain it.
Okay.
Before Roswell, 1947, in the 30s, a UFO crashed in Germany.
Okay.
In the 30s, a UFO crashed in Germany.
Okay.
Hitler is in Germany.
What?
1947. In the 30s, a UFO crashed in Germany.
Okay.
Hitler, since Hitler is very fascinated with the occult.
Nordic stuff.
Okay. Oh yeah, Nordic especially. The Thule means the North Country. Ultima Thule is a mythical land that's at the North Pole. But the problem is there's it's not the North Pole. It's up there where God came from. Right? The North is up there. Okay. So Hitler's fascinated with the occult and any advantage he can get militarily. So ship crashes.
You fucking idiot.
Hitler
Get over
gets
there.
it. Von Braun's one of his scientists, and a guy named can't remember. It's a German. He's like the German Einstein. Schlauberger. Schlauberger. Look that up. He was a
Einstein? Was Albert Einstein German? Yeah. German.
German scientist, one of their best. And all of a sudden, Schlauberger, von Braun, they're starting to work on things nobody had even conceived of. Okay? And it's known that Hitler was building saucer-shaped. Look up the bell. Okay? The clock. Okay? Which is the German word for bell. Okay? Because Hitler was making disc-shaped flying craft guns. So von Braun and his scientists, and I have some of the quotes. You know, they asked von Braun when he came over, "How'd you guys kill all this?" He said it was given to us. Okay, so Hitler was that close to winning World War II.
Oh yeah.
Because he was developing the V2, he was developing the atomic bomb, he was developing him if Hitler had the atomic bomb, he would have bombed London and New York and Washington D.C. without
Oh yeah.
that would have been the end of the world as we know it. Okay? It
Would have been
was, I
better,
believe,
I
the
think.
grace of God
I don't.
allowed us to break through the lines.
It wasn't the time.
Yeah, it wasn't the time. So, but Hitler was working all these things. Where was he getting the ideas from? And they were all saying they were coming down to them. So von Braun, Operation Paperclip, there wasn't a CIA during World War II. It was the Office of Special Services, OSS, which then turned into the CIA. But then they instituted Operation Paperclip. They had to work out a deal with the Russians. Russians wanted the scientists too.
Oh sure.
Okay? So the Russians got one group of scientists working on one thing, rocket guys and atomic bomb guys. So we get them. We bring all these, and these guys are Nazis. On ground
Big time.
Nazis.
Big time.
Okay? And all of a sudden, we write them apart, give them a clean slate, come over here, come down here to New Mexico, and go to work for us.
So they're working at Area 51.
Yes. No, there's no Area 51 at that time. We're in New Mexico.
No.
At the Roswell base. They're working on the air base out there. They're working at the Trinity test site. But now we have and Von Braun, of course, he's the head of NASA or one of their chief guys. And he's the one that's, working with
I hate
But
that.
I've heard this from about 4 different knowledgeable sources. One of them is a guy by the name of Don Wilson. Go to Stephen Greer's YouTube channel, look for a guy named Don Wilson, listen, because he was a for certain department, because there is no such thing as the government, right? It's very compartmentalized, and most of the recent presidents are not on U.S. involvement with aliens or UFOs. They're not told.
Why do you suppose that is?
Carter wasn't told anything. There is a story that Richard Nixon, buddies, okay, and Jackie's visiting Nixon at the White House or somewhere down in Florida or somewhere. There's a base where they had a bunch of stuff stored, and Gleason's big into UFOs, and Nixon says. So Nixon drives his president when he leaves his security detail. He goes to this Air Force base. I can't remember which one it was. And he takes Gleason into this secured area and shows him stuff. And Gleason's going, he's freaking out. Freaking out at what he sees. Okay?
Looking
But
for cows.
after Nixon, they quit briefing President Reagan. Supposedly knew some things. That's why he gave a speech at the UN about what if an alien force. He's doing this in front of you. And UFOs, right? Reagan's like, what if an alien force? About what if an alien force? He's doing this in front of the UN. Right. UFOs, right? Reagan's like, what if an alien force comes down and attacks Earth? Wouldn't that unite us all? Really? But they didn't tell Carter anything.
Right.
They, of course, George Bush
Now,
knew. He's head of the CIA. He knows.
Now here's the thing I'm curious about possibly. It's because these men that are short-term in office are only in there.
Exactly.
They're elected by the people, or at least the illusion of that they're the people's man, right? So they're not going to give anybody. It's not permanent government.
That's right.
Entrenched in the government information.
And Bush was.
Yeah.
The CIA.
His whole family is.
Yeah.
All the way back
But
to the Nazis.
Clinton wasn't.
I have my
Carter
Honest Jones
wasn't.
moment. Hold on.
Obama wasn't. Okay? So they didn't brief these guys. But Hillary, you remember Hillary when she's running, and she does
Who was a known pervert, by the way,
Yeah.
himself, connected with all that rape.
Here's emails that were part of WikiLeaks
Yeah.
that Podesta was in contact with people about. When we get in the office, we're gonna dig up these files. Okay? So, which once that's leaked, there may be more than one reason why Hillary was because the secret part of the government that deals with UFOs and aliens don't answer to Congress. They don't answer to the president. They don't answer to anybody.
Their clearance is higher than all those people.
There's $1 trillion missing out of the Department of Defense budget. Donald Rumsfeld himself said it. We've got $3 trillion missing. We don't know where it is. Well, it's in black operations, in black projects
Always.
that are. It's a need to know basis. And let's say you're a guard at Area 51. If that's all you are is a guard at the gate at Area 51, you don't know anything. Okay? You might see things, but you're not told anything.
You don't know what it means.
Yeah, you don't know what it is. Okay? So, but here's to Stephen Greer's credit, I don't like the guy because he's a hardcore. He's making phone calls to these devils every day. But to his credit, when he went gathering these guys up out of NASA, out of the CIA, out of the Department of Defense, out of military bases, when he goes to talk to them, he says, I know you signed a security contract saying that as long as you're alive, you will never talk about what's classified as top secret. But he said, I want you to ask yourself a question. The stuff that you worked on that was related to UFOs, it's not in your security clearance. It's Minuteman silos. Minuteman nuclear missiles, 16 of them. And this happened in the 60s. He's down in the control center, down, 200 feet underground. He gets a phone call from Topside. Topside saying, boss, we got these red glowing objects up in the sky hovering around the gate. And he says, call me later. Click. Okay. Well, then he gets a call back saying, they're like right over the silos. And he said, I'm watching the control panels of these missiles. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, they shut down. And he said, every now and then you'd have one go down, you don't have all 16 of them go down. He said, all 16 of them drop just like that. And he said, you understand the nature of this. If I got a phone call from the White House saying, launch codes are on the way, you're to launch all 16 of your missiles from Russia. He said, I can't launch my missiles. They're dead in the water. And guys come in and reboot every one of these missiles. And he said, those things shut them down. That happened. You can look that up. You can look up.
So their technology is so advanced that it shut down the missile defense.
Richard Doty said that he investigated, because that's what he did for the military, was he was an investigator. He investigated a situation where was stolen out of a missile.
Okay.
Out of a missile silo.
Wow.
Warhead was. And he said, you gotta understand, nobody gets in nuclear missiles. Nobody does. And he said, we actually got fingerprints off of that missile. He said they're not human fingerprints. Human fingerprints are world. He
Right.
said these were all straight line, side to side. And he said he actually saw a photograph of an alien that had like 4 arms. And he said, we determined, based on the placement of the hands, that's what it was. But he said they stole the warhead right out of it.
Wow.
So look up Bent Waters. That is at Rendlesham Forest in England. So we have a NATO base over there back in the 80s. The guys that worked that base that were part of this, most of those guys are still alive. Colonel Charles Halt was the officer in charge. And they had 2 incidents around Christmas, mid-80s, sometime, I don't remember the exact year. But these guys are talking now. One of these guys, they had 2 incidents around Christmas, mid-80s, I don't remember the exact year. But mid-80s, sometime, I don't remember the exact year. But these guys are talking now. One of these guys did a hypnotic regression of his. He was a guard, I think, at the base that was called out because this UFO landed in Rendlesham Forest, which is right next to the base. And he went out to investigate. And he, he's one of these guys having nightmares all the time. He's like mental problems all his life. So he gets regressed, and I watched his part of his regression, and he is freaked out at what he's seeing. He's reliving it, and he says, I see this eye, this big eye, glaring at me. So anyway, look at that, because that was also at nuclear silo. See this eye, this big eye, glaring at me. So anyway, look at that, because that was also, we had nuclear silence. See
What?
this eye, this big eye, glaring at me. So anyway, look at that, because that was also, we had nuclear silos there. They stored nuclear weapons there, nuclear bombs that were to go on bombers, airplanes that flew out. And he said, the ship beam to beam down into every one of those storage places where we had these bombs at, okay? And a lot of of these people are saying that there's something about the nuclear bombs that the aliens don't like. I don't know what that's about. I don't want to speculate about that. But there's another source. You're asking me about sources. There's another source. There is a reporter. Well, I don't have to look the name up. Linda Moulton Howe is her name. Moulton, Moulton Howe, Howe. She started out as an investigative reporter that got sent out to look at cattle mutilation. Now, study in the Old Testament, study, and especially in Deuteronomy, where God said, "The fierce shall not understand, you're going to steal your cattle."
Right.
And he said that she said she was sent out to study these cattle mutilations.
Right.
And she interviewed a lot of the police officers involved that were investigating it, and they were saying this had to be done. This was done by aliens, or people from outer space. Because it freaked them out. Because all of a sudden these cattle are found.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, you guys. I think someone else was
Put
watching.
in the place.
I forgot that was me.
They were killed and dropped in that place. And a lot of times, every drop of blood was missing. And they were cut. A lot of times their genital organs were cut out. But the cut was made on the molecular level. It was like something sliced between the cells.
Wow.
Okay, when they looked at it. So anyway, she's been investigating now UFOs for most of her life. And as a reporter, Colonel Corso met one, and he said, "How in the blank did you get the information you got?" Because she got stuff that was top secret, and he knew.
Wow.
Okay. Now, she is one of these that's like all in favor of let's meet them, let's find out what they want, kind of stuff. So I take that with a grain of salt. But she seems to be able to find out information that not too many people can get a hold of. Okay? I listen to her because I know that she's going to present information that I think is probably well researched.
Okay.
And again, if I hadn't, and you can go back and look at everything that I said up until March of last year, I never talked about Roswell crashed alien ships because it didn't make sense to me how angels could crash and die. Never made sense to me until, and I remember it, I was laying in bed reading, asking God, I gotta go talk about this in 2 weeks. And I don't know what I can say because I don't know what's true biblically. Okay? So God, I have to have an answer. I'm on the clock here, God. Okay, you got 2 weeks. 1 o'clock that morning on Thursday night. The Holy Ghost said, I have said ye are gods, but ye shall die like men. And I went, Roswell.
It's interesting though.
So then I followed that up with, I remembered Ezekiel 28. I've said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas. Well, that's the sea of glass, where the throne is, on the chariot. And but God said, "Thou art a man." Okay, it even says that about Lucifer in Isaiah 14.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so that makes some scholars think that it wasn't really the devil; it was the king of Cyrus,
Right.
King of Tyrus. So,
But the king of Tyrus wasn't in the Garden of Eden.
exactly. Now it's been in the Garden of Eden, the Garden of God. Every
Yeah.
precious stone was thy covering.
That was Lucifer.
Yeah. So anyway,
I when people say Satan and Lucifer are two different, no, they're not. He wants you to think that.
These devils come down here. They're doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, and
Which involves hybridization, probably. Animals, mutilations, like you're talking about. But I have one question for you here while you're talking about this, along this lines. I'm trying to understand The Nordic guys I kind of understand a bit. Okay,
Yeah.
I get that because I see it. I've heard some witnesses. I've had people tell me
Yeah.
that they've seen some of this and that these men were so attractive and everything like that
Yeah.
that they were drawn to them. I won't say who told me that, obviously, but
Yeah.
someone told me that at one time that they experienced that somewhere in New England, and which I thought was really weird near Salem, but where all the witchcraft and the hotbed is for witchcraft and all that. However, here's the thing that I'm trying to figure out that I'm trying to get an idea of. We know that Lamb, okay,
Right.
we know Lamb
Is a devil.
is a devil.
Absolutely.
So there's no question about that.
Right.
However, I'm trying to understand the fact that these Greys they're operating these ships. They look like Lamb.
Yeah.
Okay. But what exactly, in part of that piece of the puzzle or the order, are they? Because they don't seem to be like the Nordics, who are. And I know there's different classes, but they're. You see what I mean? Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Did you ever see the movie 2001: Space Odyssey?
Maybe years ago. I don't remember that.
You can look this up. Or you can Google the image. It's 2001: Space Odyssey. The ending. Because Arthur Clarke and who's the director of that film? Famous director did Shining. No, that's Spielberg. I can't remember his name. But anyway,
Oh, that's fine.
Arthur C. Clarke and this director are sort of writing the story in some cases. And the ending's weird.
Okay.
There's no words, there's no explanation for it, which is what they want. And at the end, it shows what, if you read the book, it shows the star child.
Okay.
And it's basically, if you look at a picture of it, it's like a fetus in a big star bubble moon. Big head. Staring at you. Okay? And what it's supposed to represent is the whole movie of Space Odyssey is about a new age of transformation coming to planet Earth. Okay? Because the astronaut is transformed. Okay? He lives, he's an old man, he dies, and this scenario is that he's rebirthed, and he's this big fetus looking over the Earth. Okay? They transformed the whole world. Now, I'm taking the long way to this.
That's okay.
As I'm explaining. Yep. Travis Walton was a logger working out in Snoqualmie, Arizona, working out a forest, and his buddy had a contract to clear brush out at a big forest out there. Travis Walton gets zapped because they see they looks like one of the trees is on fire because they thought lightning struck it, and they're supposed to call that in. Okay? So they go investigate. It's not a tree on fire. It's at night, and it's a big ship, a big red glowing ship. Travis jumps out of the truck, goes right over there, gets zapped there, gets hit in the air. Okay. So anyways, buddies take off. A minute later, they turn around and come back. Travis is gone. 5 days he's gone. The FBI investigates, or the state police investigate, and they're following these guys around and saying, just tell us where you buried the body, you guys got caught, we'll call it self-defense.
Right.
They're trying to talk these guys into it. What happened? This is what we saw. 5 days later, Travis Walton shows up. He calls his buddy and says, I'm like 30 miles away, come get me. He's got a beard like you've got 5 days worth of beard. He hasn't eaten and drank in 5 days. He had to put him in the hospital, rehydrated. Okay?
Yep.
And he says what he remembers is the last few hours of it. He didn't know he'd been gone 5 days. He thought it was just a few hours. He woke up, he's on the table, and his grays are around. But here's how he describes it. They look like fetuses with big heads and big eyes.
Right. Yep.
Now, during the time of Paul, the Gnostics were busy writing these fake gospels. The Gospel of Judas, the Gospel of
Thomas.
the Gospel of Thomas. These are all mystery doctrine gospels, okay? And they're writing it, the Gnostics are writing it. But anyway, they find in Nag Hammadi in Egypt, they find a collection of these Gnostic writings. Okay? One of them is called something about the archons. I could look it up. But it describes two types of demigod-like characters or creatures, okay, that sort of have a form of ruling over the planet, over the earth, okay? The first group that they described were reptilian-looking creatures. Humanoid reptilian. We know that's the dragons, right? Reptilians. The second group that they called the archons was a type of demigod that looked like big okay. The word archon is the Greek word from which the word principality is translated in King James.
Yep.
Okay? Like an archangel. Where we get the word archangel.
Okay.
So it means a chief angel.
Okay.
Chief prince. Like
Prince.
God.
Yep. Like
God,
Daniel too.
God is
Right.
a chief prince.
Right.
Okay? So this Nag Hammadi text
Okay.
actually describes a principality that looks like a penis. Big head,
Big head.
big eyes. Because in fetal development, the eyes are huge. Okay, of a human fetus. You look it up. The eyes are huge. The head looks big. The body has to grow. You know, sometimes you'll see children that they have a small body and a big head. Okay, well, eventually they grow into the head. They're huge people, like tall people. Right? It's like the head tips you off as to how big they're going to be when they grow up. So in fetal development, the head relative to the body is huge. The eyes are huge. The body grows into that. Okay? And so that's my theory. My theory is that these grays are archons. They're principalities. Okay? Who we wrestle with. Principalities. And they do have a certain power on this earth. So when I think about the Ariel School incident in Zimbabwe, where this craft lands, silvery disc lands out at the edge of their playground. Out comes, children describe them as sort of like floating and skipping across. And some of these girls, you ought to see this interview with this, where John Mack is interviewing one of these girls. Welling up in tears. As she's remembering these things, she is about ready to cry because she was so fearful. Because they looked fierce.
Wicked.
They have a fierce countenance.
Fierce countenance.
They are devils.
And it says the Antichrist is the king of fierce countenance.
King of fierce countenance, exactly. So who is he? Okay? So, you know, that's what I was showing you guys last night was all the depictions of these gods in various places. And I know, you know, the Greeks and the Romans, they just carved gods out that looked like men. Okay? But they were sort of more developed civilizations.
Right.
The more primitive civilizations actually drew them, I think, how they really look. Big head, big eyes, fierce countenance, in some cases, small bodies. And
So you believe that these grays are an order of fallen angels?
yeah,
Okay.
principalities.
Okay. They're an order, some type of order.
Yeah.
We don't know. All we can do is speculate as far as like what. But wouldn't talk to you that way. I don't think he'd talk to you at all.
I wouldn't talk to you.
Yeah, get away from me. I don't think come near you. That doesn't happen usually to God's people.
And I
don't
would
think
curl up in a little fetal position and cry for an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the Nordic ones,
Yeah.
these blonde-haired, blue-eyed, very tall, very muscular. No, they aren't like Luke over here.
Which is what Travis Walt saw. Once he woke up on his table and these grays are around.
So there's two groups around.
Yeah. And he jumps off the table, and these things go scurrying. They go out a door and they go scurrying down the hall. So he looks down there, sees them running that way, and he goes, "I'm going this way. If they're going that way, I'm going this way." And he goes down this hallway, and he said he walked into this room, and he sees this big display up on the wall, and it's stars. And he sees his panel, and like a knob on there, and he's figuring, I'm going to figure out a way out of here. And he flips that knob, and all of a sudden the stars change, like the ship moved. And he's going, uh-oh, what did I do? He hears something behind him, he turns around, and sees Luke, okay? He sees this guy that he says, thank goodness, man, human, okay? But he's tall, and he describes very handsome, muscular, right? No whiskers, no blemishes on the faces, no scars, perfect. Blonde hair, sort of cut like cropped, and motion. So he takes Travis Walton into this big, he realizes he must be like in a mothership or something like that, because he goes into this big area and there's these little flying saucers all over the place. And he takes him over and he sees 2 or 3 more over at this table. And he said they look similar but not identical. And one of them was a female. And he's looking at her and he's like,
She's very attractive.
very attractive.
Perfect
Okay?
physique.
Perfect physique. So he's trying to talk to them, but they don't talk back. And this woman has like a gas mask, puts it over his mouth. That's the last thing he remembers. And he's laying down in the street on a county road, county highway. And when he looks up, he sees the ship going off up into space. Okay, and then he sees a light down the road. He knows what it is because he knows where he is. Goes down to the gas station, picks him up. So the Nordic, when I kept hearing the word Nordic,
You think they're more advanced than the Greys?
it's hard to say exactly. It seemed like Walton seemed to think that these Nordics were sort of in charge. But when I read the testimony of some people, and I haven't decided.
Right, it's something.
I haven't decided yet if these people are actually taken up in a ship somewhere, or that idea is
Beamed into their.
I don't know yet. I can't say We know they're liars.
Right. Devils are always
They're,
liars.
you can't trust.
And where can they really? Because we don't know where they could really take human beings. I mean, we don't know what God allows them to do specifically. We know that Satan did take Jesus, you
Yeah.
know, in Matthew chapter 4, that he was allowed to.
Exactly. We have when I hear the flat earth people say earth is a pancake, heavens are this hard shell dome here, that there are no satellites, there's never been any rockets go outside, there's nothing but this hard shell, and the sun and the moon is a projection, and the stars are a projection. That's stupid, okay? Because there are three places where God said man would do things. The first place is Genesis 11. Let's build us a city and a tower's top may reach unto heaven. Then in Amos chapter 9, God said, though you ascend up into heaven, I'll bring you back down.
Right.
Then in the next page over, Obadiah, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, though thou build thy nest among the stars,
Right.
thence will I bring thee down. So one of the things that I know for a fact is that since recorded history, man has had in his being the desire to go up. Okay? So Genesis 11, he's building a tower. Okay? We build skyscrapers.
Right.
Then we learn how to fly. And what's amazing to me, 60 years is all the time we have of manned flight on Earth. 60 years is it. And now,
Right.
that's more technology in 60 years than what man had in 6,000 years. That tells me something beyond man was at work, giving him that information. Okay?
It's pretty amazing. You've got these for right now, and I'm not going to get you too far ahead of that because I know you're still studying a lot of those things out.
Yeah.
But let's go back a little bit here. We've got about 15 minutes probably, then we'll be done for the day here because gotta give you some time.
I had a nap.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
haven't had a nap yet.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk about a little bit about. So we go from you got Aleister Crowley, you got all these guys. They're opening the doors of perception, right?
Yeah.
To all these things, right? Preparing the world, drug abuse, spirit world, false Bible conversions coming out, all the things being set up, all that stuff. Jesus said that in the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Let's go back to the technology and the things that were happening around Babylon and things like that. I know we can't speak, like we don't have 100,000%, understanding of all that, but let me just say this, that something was going on right before the flood.
Yeah.
That God was angry. You had giants. You had hybridization.
Yeah.
You definitely Genesis 6. You've got to be blind as a bat and completely
You
want to
are
ignore
blind
the
as a
Bible
bat, I'm
in
telling
order to
y'all.
say that those sons of God did not come into the daughters of men, did not produce giants, all those things. So,
How evil.
what
These
do
guys
you
are
think the
fools, man.
significance is when you look at the giants in Genesis 6, Noah, aliens, UFOs, and the time now?
Okay, the thing that had been, time is a river that repeats itself. Ecclesiastes 1. Okay? And while we don't know exactly what happened prior to Noah, we know that God gave Noah the technology to build the ark. Okay? God put it in his mind that God told him verbally how he could
Fucking
make it.
idiots.
Then
What the fuck are you
God
there?
assisted with wisdom. Just like with, I can't remember who it was, but Moses had a guy that God said, I've filled him with wisdom. I've given put everything in his mind how I want it. So it's going to be built exactly the way I want it. So I believe the devil and his devils can give man secret technology. Things that man only, man, I talked about the imagination of man yesterday. What man imagined
don't always
Jules
do.
Verne wrote a book
Like
called
cunts.
and he actually, in the late 1800s, came up with the idea of
Hurry the
using
fuck
rocket
up.
stages.
God damn
Okay?
you.
And that's exactly
How did
Saturn
not do
V
that
rocket
shit, why nigger?
is in stages. First stage lifts them off, gets them off the Earth. They go to staging, which means that part of the rocket comes off. Stage
Fuck.
2 kicks in. Jules Verne thought about that back in the 1800s.
Yeah, where did he get that?
Where did he get that from? Because that's exactly what happened. Okay? And von Braun was against it. Von Braun, that wasn't his idea, but another engineer came up with it and said, why don't we do this in stages? So anyway, the science fiction writers imagine it, then the scientists say, oh, that's a pretty interesting idea. How can we do that? So we know before the flood, I think we have the remnants of the giants still around. I think the Sphinx, the Great Pyramid, definitely these huge megalithic stone walls that are all through South America. The Bosnian Pyramid is huge. It's bigger than the Great Pyramid in Giza. But it's covered up with trees and dirt, grass, everything else. But it's a pyramid. There's a village at the base of it, and it looks like a white little village on the side of a mountain. But when you
It's
look at
annoying
it,
as fuck.
it's a four-sided pyramid. And there's a guy right now that has found a tunnel network all through there, and he spent thousands of yards into these tunnels, and he said for some reason there's still fresh air in here.
Wow.
I have no idea where it's coming from. Okay, but anyway, there's no doubt that before the flood, these giants had technology, and they gave technology to man. But they had a technology at their time. I don't know how advanced it was. I don't think they had microwave ovens and TVs, and they were the Flintstones, and I don't believe that. But I believe that they, I read the Book of Enoch once, and closed it, and I said, that's not the Word of God. Okay? But it does sort of give you a detail in the Book of Enoch that these giants, were telling people how to do stuff that
He shouldn't have known how to do it.
should have done. Okay? So I believe the thing that has been is thing that shall be. So what I was saying about man has this desire to go out beyond the Earth and
Right.
the Moon and Mars is that one of the things that I absolutely believe is the ability to get men beyond Earth. Ben Rich, who was the CEO of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works,
You guys, hold on.
top secret
Like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in
government
the next video.
contractor working on like
Peace out. I'm gonna
stuff
test something
like
real quick. Cause I'm
Ben
sick of this
Rich
sword
made
shit.
a statement